One is abstract classes and the other is interfaces. Okay, so today we will concentrate mainly on abstract classes. Next class we will continue with interfaces. So abstract classes. So now we will mainly concentrate on abstract classes. So what is an abstract class? You see, whenever first thing you have to know is to make a class abstract. Okay, to make a class abstract, you have to make use of the abstract keyword. That is the first condition. Okay, that is the first necessary condition. Okay, so this is not an access modifier. Okay, abstract is not an access modifier like public protected. Okay, it's a non-access modifier. It's just a keyword that you have to add in front of that particular class that you would like to make abstract. Okay, that is the first necessary condition. So what is an abstract class? It is a restricted class that cannot be used to create objects. So you cannot instantiate abstract classes. Okay, instantiate means you cannot create objects of an abstract class. Why is that so? Because abstract classes contains abstract methods. Now, what is an abstract method? An abstract method is one which has got a declaration but has got no implementation. Okay, it will be having a declaration but it will be not having any implementation. Okay, so these are the two important points that you have to remember in order to make a class abstract. Okay, first, see, an abstract class may have an abstract method, it may not have an abstract method. There are basically two types of methods inside a class. One is the concrete or regular methods that we have been using so far. So what are concrete or regular methods? Methods with declaration as well as the implementation, right? So till now, whatever programs we have done, we have seen implementation of all the methods that we have used, right? In that particular class itself. Okay, so in whichever class you have declared a particular method, that method has also been implemented inside that class. So that those methods are known as concrete methods or regular methods. Okay, and the second type of method that we are talking about is an abstract method. So abstract methods are those which does not have their implementation. You simply declare it, okay, with the with an access specifier, then with a the return type, with the function name and the list of arguments. That's it. You simply declare the function, but it will not have any implementation. Now, how are you going to, so see, if you have a function, it is important that you implement it. How are you going to implement it? Via inheritance. Okay, so it is always the subclass that will inherit that particular parent class. Okay, that particular subclass will implement the abstract method. Okay, so we will understand one by everything via example. See, this is one example. Okay, this is one example of a abstract class. See, animal class. Okay, so as I said, the first important thing that you have to remember is to use the abstract keyword. So here you have the abstract keyword at the very beginning, okay, which makes this entire class abstract. Now, inside an abstract class, you may have just 1 minute, huh? Okay, so see, once you use the abstract keyword in front of the class, it becomes an abstract class. And important thing is, abstract classes can never be instantiated. You cannot create, abstract means what? Something is hidden. So whenever something is hidden, so what is a class? A class is a template. Okay, that class is a blueprint or a template of all the objects belonging to that class. So if something is hidden, if something is not implemented fully, how can you design objects for that class? How can you implement that class? That is not possible, right? Object is an implementation of the class. So if the class itself is, abstract, if the class is not, cannot be implemented, you cannot create objects. So that you have to understand. Okay, now inside an abstract class, you may have non-abstract methods also. Like, you can have any number of methods which are concrete. Okay, it is not necessary that inside an abstract class you need to have abstract methods. No, you may not have abstract methods also. You may have all concrete or regular methods. Means you can have all methods with the implementation. That type of abstract classes are also possible. Okay, then you can also have combination of regular methods as well as abstract methods. Okay, so these are different options that you can go for in case you are designing an abstract class. So here we have an abstract class with two types of methods. The first, if you can see, public abstract void animal sound. So this is a method. Void animal sound is the method. It has got the access specifier public, and then we have the keyword abstract. So whether a class or a method, if you want to make it abstract, you have to use the keyword at the very beginning. So since this is an abstract method, so we have added this keyword, and if you can see, we do not have any implementation details. Okay, we have ended it here itself. Okay, so this method has not been implemented in this class. So it clearly means that to implement this method, you have to go through inheritance. You need a child class or a subclass that is going to, implement this method on behalf of this class. Okay, followed by that, we have another method, sleep. And if you can see, it has got its body. That means it is fully implemented. It is a regular method. Okay, sleep, which will display a particular message here. Okay, it's given here. From the above example, it is not possible to create an object of the animal class. So if you try to create an object of this class, animal class, okay, it will give you an error. Okay, it will generate an error. To access the abstract class, it must be inherited from another class. So these are certain things that you have to remember. First is the use of keywords in front of the class or in front of the method that you want to declare as abstract. Once you declare a class as abstract, you cannot instantiate it, no matter whether or not you have any abstract method inside the class or not. Since you have declared the class as abstract, that means it is abstract. And to be able to implement the class, implementing the class means what? To be able to create objects of the class, you need to create child class. Okay, and via that child class, you are going to implement that class. Okay, so we use abstraction basically in inheritance. Next, the question is, why do we need an abstract class? Or when do you when will you feel the need that, okay, I need to design an abstract class? Okay, so that should be very much clear to you. So here it's given very nicely as an example given here. You see, let's say we have a class animal that has a method sound. Okay, so there's a parent class animal with the method sound, and the subclasses of it are dog, lion, horse, cats, etc. Okay, so we have a few child classes and one parent class animal, and that animal class has a method sound. So what this says is, since the animal sound differs from one animal to another, yes, so dog, so see, these are all child classes. So it is obvious that all these child classes will inherit this particular method. Now, in case of dog, the sound will be different. In case of lion, sound will be different. Horse will also make a different sound. Cats also makes different sounds, right? So the sounds varies from animal to animal. So which option is better? So if what you do is, if you try to implement the sound method in the parent class itself, will that be of any use? No, because see, we have already understood the concept of method overriding. What was method overriding? We override a method from the parent class in the child class when we want a different implementation, when we want different kind of modifications, right? So one way you can think is, okay, in the parent class, we will implement the sound method, and then because we know method overriding by now, so what we can do is we will create the child classes. Okay, and since this sound method will already be inherited, we will override this method. We will override this method, and accordingly we will make the different changes based on the different sounds made by these animals. But now I ask you, is it necessary to implement the sound? What if you do not implement the sound all at all? Because ultimately the sound will be made by the specific animals, right? Here it is just a general term, animal, but ultimately this will be specific for each of these different classes. So instead of implementing the sound method in the animal class unnecessarily and overriding it, just leave it as it is. Inherit it in the child classes and then you go for overriding. So each of these separate classes will have different implementation for the sound class, right? So you don't have to take extra load of work to implement the sound class in the animal class. So these are examples or scenarios when we might, when we will need the use of abstract classes. Okay, so this is what has been given here. So since the animal sound differs from one animal to another, there is no point to implement this method in the parent class. This is because every child class must override this method to give its own implementation details, like lion class will say roar in this method and dog will say woof. Okay, so when we know that all the animal child classes will and should override this method, because ultimately this sound method needs to be overridden in the child classes, even whether or not you implement it, not implement it. So better you don't implement it, right? So when we know that all the animal child classes will and should override this method, then there is no point to implement this method in the parent class. Thus making this method abstract would be the good choice, as by making this method abstract we force all the subclasses to implement this method. Otherwise you will get compilation error. Also, we need not to give any implementation to this method in the parent class. Okay, so since the animal class has an abstract method, you must need to declare this class abstract. Also, it is important that just understand the both ways. A class is abstract need not necessarily mean the methods has to be abstract inside. Okay, but if you have declared an abstract method inside a class, okay, if you have declared an abstract method inside a class, then the class has to be abstract. Okay, have you understood what I said? So here in this example, suppose you have declared a class as abstract. You may have abstract methods inside, you may not have abstract methods inside. Okay, because the class is already declared as abstract, you cannot instantiate it. So it doesn't matter whether you have regular methods or abstract methods inside. But suppose you have not declared this class as abstract, but you have used an abstract method inside. So if you are using an abstract method inside, it is important that you declare the class as abstract, otherwise it will show error. Okay, so that is what has been said here. So since we are making this animal class abstract, okay, because why we are making this animal class abstract, because we are declaring, we are not implementing the sound method. Okay, we are not implementing the sound method in the animal class. And if you are not implementing any method inside the class, that means you are making that method an abstract method. And if you are making any method an abstract method, it is important that you declare that class as an abstract class. Okay, so ultimately your animal class becomes abstract with a method inside which is also abstract, sound method. Then we will have the child classes, as many number as you want to, and each of these child classes will implement this abstract class. Okay, implement this method. Okay, and that is how we will create objects. We will create objects of each of these child classes and instantiate this animal class. Okay, so we have an example below. See here, I'll directly go to the editor. Okay, so this is just one part. Okay, see, abstract class animal. Okay, because we have a sound which is abstract. Okay, so this is a sound method which is abstract. So for that we have declared this class as abstract. Now this is the abstract class I have. Followed by that, as discussed in the previous example, you can have any number of child classes. Here we have taken a sample, okay, one sample only. So we have excuse me, we have only one child class here, dog, that will extend animal. Okay, and then what are we doing? We are simply implementing it. That means we are overriding it. You are overriding this method, this parent class method here. Okay, initially this was empty, you are implementing it, and you are simply displaying a message. Then, because as I said, abstract classes can never be instantiated. Okay, so you can never create objects of abstract classes. So here we have taken another class, abstract one. Okay, this thing can be done here also inside, fine. But just to separate each of these classes with proper, names, that's why I've just created another class for it. Anyways, so I have taken a third class, abstract one, inside which I have a main function, and then what I have done is I have used runtime polymorphism here. Okay, I have used runtime polymorphism. So what I have done is I have created a child class object only. Okay, we have discussed all this in the previous class. I have created a dog class object only, but what I have done is I've stored that dog class in the animal class reference variable obj. Okay, do not get confused with this. मैम ने तो बोला था एनिमल क्लास को इंस्टेंशिएट नहीं कर सकते, तो पर मैम तो इंस्टेंशिएट कर रही है. दिस इज नॉट एन ऑब्जेक्ट. obj is not an object, it is an abstract, sorry, it is an instance variable. Okay, it's an instance variable. And what do we use this for? To store objects created of that particular class. So here the object creation is for the dog class. As you can see, it is the dog class constructor which will be invoked. Okay, so we are creating an object of the dog class and we are placing that object inside the animal class instance variable. Okay, so that the animal class can now so that this animal class reference variable can now refer to this dog class. Okay, now see, then what do we have? Obj dot sound. So it was this sound. Okay, it was the animal class's sound which has been implemented inside the dog class. So if you invoke it, it is this method that will be displayed. Okay, let's see. See, you got the message displayed accordingly. It is woof. It is the sound that will be made by the dog. Accordingly, if you have, say, if you create, if you create different objects. Okay, sorry, if you create different child classes, for example, suppose let me create a cat class here. Okay, then you are, let this, okay, let this be. So this is how you can implement the other child classes also. Okay, fine. Have you understood the concept of abstract classes till now?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I have a query, ma'am.
Huda, Huda. Do not implement any method, then that method has to be made abstract. So you have to make use of the abstract keyword here. And once you make use of the abstract keyword here, this class automatically becomes an abstract class. So यहाँ पे भी you have to add this abstract keyword. Okay, so here inside the dog class may have other methods, okay, which are non-abstract. The dog class, apart from this sound method, may have another method, okay, which is a regular method. That means it has got its own implementation. That is possible. But since this dog class has not implemented the sound method that it inherited, even in here, so it means this method has become abstract. And once this method has become abstract, it will have no body. Okay, it will have no body of its own. It will end here. It will have no body. You will not have this part. And when, as I said, if any method is made abstract, the class also becomes abstract. And once a class becomes abstract, you cannot instantiate that class. Then again, you have to create a child class of this dog class. Then you have to have a multi-level inheritance. Dog, you will have to have a, say you have a puppy class. Okay, you have a puppy class, which is a child class of this dog class. It is that puppy class which will implement this sound class. Okay, so that is what I have said. That is what I am saying. Here we have learned only one level, right? That is, we have an abstract class which has been inherited by the child class, and we have done the implementation. But it's also possible that, suppose there are many, as I said, the animal class is having multiple child classes, like it has got dog class, cat, horse, lion, etc. Though we have not implemented, but it can have any number of child classes. Suppose cat has implemented the animal class, horse has implemented the animal class, lion has implemented the animal class, but the dog chose not to implement this sound method here. Then what happens is the dog also becomes an abstract class, because this method needs to be made abstract. Okay, then now to be able to, you know, implement this method, you again have to create a child class for the dog class. Okay? Then that particular child class of this particular dog class will do all the implementation on behalf of the dog and the animal. বুজি পাইছানে মই কি কৈছো?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We will go slowly. Okay, I have added everything here, important points. Am I clear till here, everyone? You don't have to
Yes,
you don't
ma'am.
have
Clear, ma'am.
yeah, you don't have to go to the complexity of the program. Just simply understand that if there is any abstract method inside the class, then that class will be an abstract class, and if a class is an abstract class, that class can never be instantiated. Okay, and objects can be created only via inheritance. So only if we inherit that abstract class, we will have some child classes. The child classes will inherit that abstract object, sorry, abstract method. That method will be overridden, and that overridden method, okay, because we have learned the concept of method overriding, right? So in method overriding, child classes can have their own implementation of the method, right, that they have overridden. So here also doesn't matter whether your method is implemented or not, because we will be creating child classes. Child classes will have their own copy of implementation for the overridden method. So likewise, you create objects for the child class and you access them. Okay, so that is the concept of abstract class, and you know by now why we might need abstract classes. Okay, it is not that we use abstract classes everywhere. No, whenever you are in need, just for example in this animal class, as you have understood, okay, uh, the concept. So likewise, okay, let us go through some other examples, which are here. We have some rules. Okay, first we will go through some rules. Okay, see here, um, as we seen in the above example, there are cases when it is difficult or often unnecessary to implement all the methods in parent class. In these cases, we can declare the parent class as abstract, which makes it a special class, which is not complete on its own. So that is what has been said. So parent class, in the parent class, we need not necessarily have implementation of all the methods. Okay, say there are 5 methods inside the parent class. Say I don't want to implement 2 methods because it is not necessary. Okay, because it will serve no purpose. So I can just leave them blank, but you cannot really leave them blank. You have to declare them as abstract. That is what has been said here. Okay, and once a method has been declared as abstract, the class also becomes abstract. And any abstract class, okay, whenever you're talking about an abstract class is not complete. An abstract class is always an incomplete class, because we don't have implementation of certain functions inside them. Okay, so abstract class is always an incomplete class. A class derived from the abstract class must implement all those methods that are declared as abstract in the parent class. Okay, that we have understood. Next is, abstract class cannot be instantiated, which means you cannot create object of it. To use this class, you need to create another class that extends this class and provides the implementation of the abstract methods, that you can use the object of the child class to call non-abstract methods of parent class as well as implemented methods. So that is what has been said. You have to create child class to be able to instantiate the abstract classes. Okay, if a child does not implement all the abstract, this is what Hashim asked. Okay, if a child does not implement all the abstract methods of abstract parent class, then the child class must need to be declared as abstract as well. Okay, so there's a parent class where you have 2-3 abstract classes, and the child class of it might not choose to implement 1 or 2 abstract methods of the parent class. So in that case, the child class also becomes an abstract class. Okay, any class which partially implements itself. Okay, so when we say implementation, we can create objects of a class only if we have the full implementation of the class. Okay, only if we have all details inside that class. If some of the details are hidden inside that class, it is not possible to instantiate that class. Okay, so that is what the basic concept is. Next is, in Java, we can have an abstract class without any abstract method. I've said this already. So you may have an abstract class. See here, you have an example. you may have an abstract class. Okay, so this is the abstract class base where we have only one method and then method has already been implemented. So we do not have any abstract method inside. But however, if you make use of this abstract keyword here, this class becomes abstract, though it will serve no purpose. It will serve no purpose because if you do not have any abstract method inside and you are still making it an abstract class, it will not serve any purpose. It's just that you cannot create method of the you cannot create object of this class. That is it, nothing else. Okay, so it is possible to not it is possible to have abstract classes with no abstract methods at all. Okay, and one more thing that I would like to say is, it is important because we will be dealing with interfaces also in the next class. Talking about abstract classes are not full, they do not fully implement abstraction. Okay, we are talking about abstract classes, but abstract classes do not fully implement abstraction. They implement abstraction partially. Why partially? Because inside abstract classes we can have regular methods also. Okay, so as you can see, classes having both regular and non abstract methods. That means what? Partially you have defined something, partially you have not defined something. So if you see, abstract classes do not fully implement abstraction. Abstraction as a whole is implemented only via interfaces. Okay, that we will learn in the next class. Okay, and we have heard about multiple inheritance. We have learned that multiple inheritance cannot be implemented in Java. Okay, so we will learn that in details, why we cannot implement it. Okay, and is there any other way to implement multiple inheritance in Java? Okay, that we will learn in the next class. So for the time being, abstract classes, regarding abstract classes, yes, abstract classes is one way of achieving abstraction. However, it achieves only partial abstraction, not full, because inside abstract classes, as you have already seen, we can have